Hello everyone, my name is Rose, and this is my story. My mother-in-law, Sherry, is a vain and shallow woman. She wasn't always like this. Her behavior changed later in life, or at least that's what my husband Dylan says. Dylan and Sherry didn't grow up rich. They lived a modest life together after Dylan's father passed away when Dylan was just 4 years old. Since then, Sherry became the one who earned money for the family. They lived simply until Dylan got a great job after college. Dylan is a very smart and kind man, and I'm not just saying that because he's my husband. He got a full scholarship to medical school and became a doctor. After that, Sherry started living a luxurious life, while Dylan remained humble. The reason I'm telling you all this is that I still don't understand how and why Sherry became so shallow. I don't have a job for several reasons that I'll explain later, but that doesn't mean I'm poor or depend on others for help. Somehow, Sherry got the wrong idea about me when we first met. I'm not sure if it was my clothes or how I acted, but Sherry didn't like me from the start. When we first met, Sherry said to Dylan, "Is this the girl you've been talking about? She's so plain and average. Why would you choose someone like her? Does she even have a job?" I introduced myself. "My name is Rose, Sherry. No, I don't have a job." Sherry quickly interrupted, "Just as I thought. You're planning to trap my son and take all his money. I know women like you. You're nothing but gold diggers and parasites. Don't think you can fool me." Dylan tried to defend me, saying, "Mom, that's so rude. You don't even know Rose. She's a great person from a great family. You have no right to talk to her like that." Sherry responded, "Dylan, how can you speak to me like that? I'm only trying to protect you. You can't ruin our family's name by marrying this classless woman. You need to raise your standards. It's clear she doesn't match our social or economic status." This led to a big argument between Dylan and Sherry right in front of me. Dylan was getting really angry, so we decided to leave. On our way home, Dylan apologized for his mother. He said, "I'm so sorry, Rose. My mom doesn't know how to act like a sane person anymore. I know her words hurt you." I replied, "It's not your fault, Dylan, but your mom seems like a horrible lady. Please don't worry, but I don't think I'll ever feel comfortable around her." Dylan explained, "Rose, you know she's the only parent I have left. We don't have much extended family either. I can't cut her off completely. I'll never push you to be friends with her, but can you at least be civil around her?" I agreed. "I can be respectful towards your mom, Dylan, but I don't think she can do the same." Dylan assured me, "Don't worry, Rose. I'll keep her in check. If her behavior gets worse, we can consider going low contact or something. I love my mom, but I also love you. I won't let her keep harassing you." I was a little unsure about how things would go between Sherry and me. Dylan promised he'd stand up for me, but I still felt uneasy. Dylan and I got married 3 years after we started dating. We had a small court wedding because we were short on money. You might wonder why. Well, Dylan was sending a lot of money to Sherry every month because of her emergencies. Even after we got married, Dylan kept giving his mother a large amount of money every month. It started affecting our finances, but I didn't stop him. I thought he had the right to help his mom. However, Sherry was becoming a big problem for me. She often talked badly about me and gossiped with her friends, telling everyone I was a gold digger. I usually ignored these comments, but it was starting to hurt my reputation. Sherry also never treated me nicely, despite Dylan's efforts to make things better between us. She was convinced that I wasn't good enough for her son. Then, surprisingly, one day Dylan told me, "Rose, Mom called me today. She's hosting a small party and wants to invite you." "Are you sure she really wants to invite me?" I asked. "I don't see why she'd invite me, since she hates me," I said. "I've talked to her several times, Rose. She promised to be better, so maybe that's why she's inviting you to the party," Dylan replied. "That's strange, Dylan. I wonder where she's getting all this money for a party. Just this month, she said she needed money for car repairs. I guess she managed somehow. It's just a small gathering of 4 people or so. It won't be very expensive, and Mom seems excited about it. She really wants you there," Dylan explained. "Well, if that's what she wants, I'll go. You know, I don't mind spending time with her. It's just her comments and behavior towards me that are the problem. It looks like Mom is making an effort. Let's see what happens. Just keep an open mind about this. I really want you two to become friends," Dylan said. I doubted that Sherry would ever want to be friends with me. I mean, I could be civil to her and try on my side because I love Dylan, but it didn't seem like Sherry cared about Dylan's happiness at all. Even though I was skeptical, I decided to go to the party, but I had to wait for details from Sherry. Sherry texted me the very next day. I thought she was going to invite me through these texts, but here's what happened instead. Hey Rose. Dylan may have told you that I've been planning a party recently, Sherry said. Yes, Sherry. Dylan mentioned it to me last week. Are you texting to talk about that? I replied. Why else would I text you, Rose? You're of no use to me anyway. So I've been planning to go to this 5-star hotel in town that everyone has been raving about. I promised my friends I would take them there, and this is finally my chance, Sherry said. That's nice of you, Sherry. Will there be a lot of people? I asked. Yes, of course. You know I have many friends since I am a wealthy lady with a good family name in this town. I'm taking 15 people to the party and we're going to have a blast, Sherry said. Sounds like a great plan, Sherry. When do you want me to get there? I asked. Who said you could come? I didn't invite you yet, Sherry shot back. I was a little taken aback by this. I mean, Dylan clearly told me that his mom was going to invite me. Apparently, Sherry had told him that herself, and he had been genuinely happy for the past week because he thought this was Sherry trying to build a relationship with me. But what Sherry said completely threw me off. I was really confused as to why she was even telling me about the party if she didn't want to invite me. I said, "Oh, I assumed I was invited since you told Dylan that I was. I'm a little confused." Dylan can get a little carried away at times, Rose. I'm just informing you that I will be hosting a party, but you are not invited. This is a fancy place, and my friends and I are very particular about who we take with us. Yes, I'm throwing a party at a 5-star hotel, but don't even think about coming because you are not as classy as my family and friends, Sherry said. Okay, Sherry, I got the message loud and clear. Don't worry, since you don't want me to come, I won't. I don't care what Dylan said. If you don't want me there, I won't go. This is your day, and I don't want to be where I'm not wanted, I responded. I'm glad we cleared that up, Rose. That's all I needed to say. Now I need to get back to planning the party. There's a lot to do, and you probably wouldn't understand since you've likely never been to a big party, let alone planned one. After that, I didn't bother replying. People know me as patient and kind, but I have my limits, just like anyone else. Sherry was really testing me today. I hated that I even had a little hope that she might be trying to make peace. But no, she was just showing off her status and trying to make me feel inferior again. There was no olive branch. I was wrong and I felt stupid, but I wasn't going to let her get to me. I wasn't going to curse her out or anything. I had better things to do, and I knew karma would come for her one day. I didn't tell Dylan anything and simply waited for the day of the party to arrive. On the day of the party, Sherry had the nerve to send me a picture of herself and her friends. They were all dressed in designer clothes and busy posting pictures on social media. Sherry sent me the picture to show off how classy her friend circle is. It was downright disgusting. I didn't reply and just went back to work. About 3 hours later, I got a call from my dad. Now, here's something I should confess. My dad owns the hotel where Sherry was having her party. Sherry had no idea about this. 3 years ago, I got a nice inheritance from my grandfather, which I invested in my dad's business, so now I get a share of the profits from the hotel and the other businesses my dad owns. I actually come from a pretty well-off family, but I don't like to show it off, which is why Sherry didn't know about my background. She also didn't realize how expensive a 5-star hotel and its restaurant can be. She let her friends order whatever they wanted without even looking at the prices. The result? She was left with a $22,000 bill. That was exactly what ruined her and gave me my revenge. My dad called and said, "Rose, your mother-in-law is at the hotel." She came with a party and ordered a ton of food and champagne, racking up a bill of $22,000. Now she's asking for a 50% discount because she's short on cash. What should I do, Rose? I know she's your mother-in-law, but this is a lot of money. My servers are also upset because they were rude and entitled. God, just as I expected, Dad. This woman and her group are absolutely horrible. They have no respect for people and love to make fun of others. You know, she bragged to me about today's party and said I wasn't invited. What the hell? Why would she do that to you? That's absolutely ridiculous, my dad said. Yeah, Dad, She told me about the party just to rub it in my face that I wasn't invited. She said I wasn't classy or rich enough to get an invite. That's funny, coming from the woman who doesn't even have the money to pay for her party. You should have seen her arguing that we need to give her a discount because she brought us so much business. She went to the restaurant one day and is already claiming she brings in all the business. So typical of her. Rose, just hearing this is exhausting. I can't imagine what you and our poor staff are going through. I know, right? That woman even threatened to leave bad reviews if we didn't give her the discount. But we know better than to be scared of that. I'm going to leave this to you, Rose. Looks like you have the perfect chance to get back at her for what she said to you. That's exactly what I was thinking, Dad. You know what? Make her wash the dishes and get her friends to help too. Make sure they clean the entire kitchen, the dishes, and the floor since they insulted our staff as well. Let's get them some revenge too. If my mother-in-law tries anything stupid, you can call the cops on her. My dad laughed at my suggestion and gave me a big thumbs up. He even offered to share pictures of the event. When it happened, I really would have loved to see Sherry reap what she had sown. Dad promised to do as I suggested and hung up. An hour later, he sent me pictures of Sherry and her friends washing dishes and wiping the floor at our restaurant. Dad also said that when Sherry saw him come out as the restaurant owner, she looked relieved. She started telling her party that she knew the owner and that they'd get out of the situation. She was shocked when Dad told her to go clean his restaurant. Apparently, she was dumbstruck for a while and muttered something. Dad said that since she didn't consider me family, he wasn't considering her family either. It was hilarious. I wish I was there, but I did get some good pictures. After a while, Dylan came home looking pretty pissed off. I could tell he had heard from Sherry what had happened. I also knew she must have given him a twisted account of the events. He walked up to me and said, "Rose, what is this I'm hearing? Your father made my mom wipe down his restaurant and wash dishes. She said you told your dad to do this. What's going on?" "Sorry about that, Dylan. Dad did what is usual in this situation. Your mother went to our restaurant, racked up a $22,000 bill, and then said she didn't have more than $1,000. She also harassed our staff, and her party was a nightmare. I thought this would be a fitting punishment." "Wait a minute, Rose. Mom racked up a $22,000 bill? Who the hell did she take with her? What did they order?" "She took 15 people with her, Dylan. They ordered a lot of expensive stuff. I thought you knew about this. Mom told me she was taking 4 people only and that she invited you, but you declined." "No, Dylan, things didn't happen that way. Your mom did tell me about her party, but she didn't invite me. She did tell me that I didn't deserve an invite for not being classy enough. I can show you the text if you want." "What the hell, Rose?" "Yes. Please show me the text, and please ask your dad to send me the bills." I showed Dylan all the texts, and my dad sent him the bills. I also showed him some of the pictures to make him understand how many people Sherry took with her. Dylan got extremely mad when he saw everything. He called Sherry and said, "Mom, what the hell is wrong with you? You didn't tell me the full story. You only told me that you were a few dollars short of cash." "I told you the truth, Dylan. That wicked woman Rose must have given you a different story. I swear, Dylan, she purposely tried to sabotage me. That's why she declined my invitation." "Is that so, Mom? Then why did your text to her say that she wasn't invited? And why did you insult my wife by saying she's not classy enough for you?" "Oh, Dylan, it was just a harmless joke." "What was a harmless joke, Mom?" "The fact that you're calling your daughter-in-law names while spending thousands of dollars that you took from your son. Does being classy mean you have to rob your family and spend it on friends to look cool?" "Well, I just wanted a small party for me, Dylan. I don't know what the big deal is." "You think spending $22,000 on food and drink isn't a big deal? Do you think my money grows on trees? You're insane, Mom. Guess I was wrong to give you money whenever you gave me sob stories about needing it." "Well, guess what, Mom? I'm not giving you any more money again." "But Dylan, you've been so supportive for me for so long. You can't just stop now. It was a one-time mistake, Dylan. Why are you overreacting?" "No, Mom, I'm not overreacting. This isn't a one-time mistake. If you can't even consider my wife as family, I don't want anything to do with you. I always thought you'd change your mind, but you never did. I'm not paying you to insult my wife while she sacrifices a lot to support you. This ends now. Dylan, please listen to me. I'm sorry." Dylan didn't listen to Sherry anymore. He hung up on her and blocked her number. He also apologized to me profusely for being mad at me without knowing the full story. I forgave him because he stood up for me. We had a serious discussion about Sherry and decided that she would no longer be in our lives for now. Yes, Dylan is now a rich man, but he knows to stay humble. He found Sherry's behavior completely unacceptable, especially since it was directed towards me. I agreed it was very unfair that Sherry treated me like that, and I was all set to remove her from our lives for good. In the next few days, Sherry realized her own actions might have damaged her relationship with her son for good, and that sent her into a panic. She showed up at our house, demanding to speak with Dylan. Slowly, her demands turned into begging after she was turned away every time. Yes, Sherry worked to earn some money, but it wasn't enough for the high-end lifestyle she had gotten used to. All these years, Dylan had stopped giving her money entirely. Instead, he invested some of his funds into my dad's business to help him open new hotels and restaurants in nearby towns. We plan on expanding our hotel business to bigger cities, but we'll have to see what the future holds. Since Dylan stopped sending her funds, Sherry had to downgrade her lifestyle a lot. She struggled to keep her rented condo with her own money and ultimately decided to end her lease. She has now shifted to a small one-bedroom apartment and doesn't have any money to spend on extras after paying her bills. How do we know this? She emails us about it, of course. She still downplays her behavior and acts like we're overreacting. Suffice it to say, she'll be out of our lives for a while now. Just a month ago, I found out I was pregnant. Dylan and I are overjoyed and busy planning everything before the baby comes. Honestly, I'm glad that my child won't be around shallow people like Sherry anymore. But if the time comes, I'll make sure my dear mother-in-law doesn't get to fill my child's head with nonsense. For now, please wish us luck so we can be good parents to a healthy child.
I'm sorry to hear that. Here's a rewritten version. In the midst of our wedding ceremony, a shocking disruption shattered the serene atmosphere. My mother-in-law, with an air of audacity, seized the microphone from my father-in-law mid-speech. Her words cut through the air like a blade. I apologized for my daughter's lack of beauty. The guests shifted uncomfortably as her declaration hung in the air, a bitter contrast to the joyous occasion. I glanced at my husband, hoping for support, only to be met with a chilling smirk. My senses reeled as I struggled to comprehend the sudden turn of events. A voice, firm and resolute, broke the stunned silence. An older gentleman rose from his seat, his actions commanding attention. "Is that all?" he demanded, his gaze piercing. Without waiting for an answer, he approached me with purpose. Recognizing him, my husband's expression betrayed a mix of surprise and fear. Before I could gather my thoughts, the man took my arm and ushered me away from the chaos. "Let's leave," he said gently, leading me through the corridors, away from the unwanted spectacle of our wedding day. A whirlwind of thoughts swept through my mind, painting a vivid picture of my life. My name is Angela, a 35-year-old woman shaped by the tumultuous currents of my past. Raised in a single-parent household after my parents divorced during my elementary school years, I became intimately acquainted with resilience and responsibility from a tender age. In my 20s, life took an unexpected turn when my mother fell ill, requiring my devoted care. Days melded into nights as I juggled the demands of work and the duties of a caregiver, my world revolving around her needs. Despite the challenges, I persevered, driven by love and duty. As the years passed, still unmarried in my 30s, fate intervened in the form of Stephen. A chance encounter at my office, where I manned the reception desk, blossomed into something more profound. Stephen, a man of kindness and understanding, saw beyond the complexities of my life and extended a hand of love. His proposal, offered despite the weight of my caregiving responsibilities, stirred a maelstrom of emotions within me. Could I dare to embrace happiness while tethered to the obligations of my past? Dope gnawed at my resolve, a relentless companion in the journey of love. Yet Stephen's unwavering support shattered the walls of my uncertainty. With tender words, he laid bare his heart, offering not just a partnership, but a promise of inclusion. "Let us be a family of 3, he proposed, a beacon of light in the darkness of my doubts. Moved by his heartfelt proposal, I made the decision to marry Stephen. However, when we shared the news with our parents, the reactions couldn't have been more contrasting. While my mother overflowed with joy, Stephen's mother, whom we'll call Ruth, responded with cutting disdain. During our first visit to Steve's home as an engaged couple, Ruth's words pierced the air like arrows. "I must be frank, I don't consider a woman from a single-parent family suitable for my son," she declared, her tone laced with contempt. As we embarked on wedding preparations, Ruth's hostility persisted, veiled in sarcasm and barbed remarks. Her comments, dripping with disdain, chipped away at my resolve. Despite her relentless jabs, I held my ground, refusing to allow her insults to go unchallenged. "I can endure your insults, but I won't tolerate you speaking ill of my mother," I asserted firmly, meeting her venomous words with unwavering strength. Yet Ruth's attacks only escalated, accusing me of using deceit to ensnare her son and casting unfounded aspersions on my family. Faced with her baseless accusations, I stood my ground, defending my honor and that of my loved ones. Though the road ahead seemed fraught with challenges, I refused to allow Ruth's bitterness to tarnish the love Stephen and I shared. With each attempt to assert myself, Ruth's venomous retorts intensified, leaving me feeling increasingly powerless. The thought of confiding in Steve crossed my mind, but I couldn't bear to burden him with unnecessary worries as we embarked on our journey into married life. Ruth's audacity reached new heights as she began to meddle in our wedding plans, even intruding upon the sacred ritual of selecting a wedding dress. Standing alongside my husband, she boldly declared her intent to choose the gown herself. Steve, oblivious to the tension, praised his mother's sense of style and eagerly supported her involvement. "I appreciate your gesture, but I want the freedom to choose a dress that resonates with me personally," I asserted gently, refusing to relinquish control over a decision so deeply personal. "I traveled all this way for you, only to be met with disappointment," my mother-in-law lamented, her words dripping with hurt. My husband's immediate defense of her, always swift to side with her, especially when she portrayed herself as the victim, stung deeply. Yet, when it came to the wedding dress, a symbol of my joy and individuality, I couldn't yield. "I understand, but I must choose my own dress. This moment is too important to compromise on," I affirmed resolutely, unwilling to sacrifice my vision for the sake of appeasing others. Despite her reluctance, my mother-in-law relented, though her resentment lingered. As the morning of the wedding dawned, her simmering animosity erupted into a shocking display of cruelty. "What a dreadful dress! And the veil? Tasteless," she scoffed upon encountering my chosen attire in the dressing room. Her words cut deep, a venomous attack on the culmination of my dreams. Despite my rising distress, I endeavored to maintain composure, determined to sidestep any turmoil on my special day. My mother, who adores sewing, crafted this veil with love. We selected the dress together, and I truly adore it, I explained evenly, hoping to diffuse the tension. But my attempt at peace was shattered as my mother-in-law's eyes widened with fury. In an instant, her calm facade crumbled, replaced by a storm of rage. With a sudden motion, she produced a can of coffee from her purse, unleashing its contents onto my beloved dress. Shock paralyzed me as the dark liquid stained the pristine fabric, rendering it unsalvageable. Desperation gripped me as I reached for a nearby towel, but my efforts proved futile against the irreversible damage. "This is the consequence of disobedience," she spat, her voice dripping with malice. With a final decree, she declared my attire unfit for the occasion, leaving me with no choice but to comply with her demands. As she exited the dressing room, her vindictive act hung heavy in the air, a bitter reminder of the power she wielded over my happiness. She must have deliberately brought the canned coffee, plotting to ruin my dress all along, evident from the fact that she had another dress prepared. Fueled by a mix of anger and frustration, I trembled with disbelief at her calculated cruelty. Seeking solace, I retreated to the separate waiting room where my husband awaited, tears streaming down my cheeks as I recounted the ordeal. "This is utterly unfair. It's going to cast a shadow over our entire wedding. What would you like me to do about it?" he snapped, his frustration palpable. Before I could finish, he cut me off, his voice rising in anger. His sudden outburst mirrored the venomous intensity of his mother's actions. Stunned by his abrupt shift in demeanor, I recoiled, taken aback by the harshness of his words. Yet just as swiftly as his anger erupted, it dissipated, replaced by a sense of remorse. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lash out like that. I'm just feeling overwhelmed," he apologized, his agitation evident as he wiped beads of sweat from his brow. Despite his apology, a pang of guilt gnawed at me for burdening him with my troubles on such a momentous day. In an effort to diffuse the tension, I opted to lend an ear to my husband's concerns. "You seem really stressed. What's going on?" I inquired gently, hoping to offer some support. "It's a bit chaotic. The CEO of my company unexpectedly decided to attend our wedding. It's a long story, but basically, he heard about our wedding from Steven's boss, who happened to meet him here at the hotel," my husband explained, his voice tinged with apprehension. "And to top it off, one of my colleagues fell ill last minute, so they invited the CEO to fill in." The coincidence was certainly striking, and I couldn't help but see the potential career implications. "It's quite the opportunity. Your skills might just earn you a promotion," I remarked, though I couldn't shake the feeling of frustration at his dismissive tone. Realizing the futility of arguing with him in his current state, I chose to withdraw from the conversation, allowing him to stew in his own thoughts. With the wedding ceremony underway, we exchanged vows atop the hotel's rooftop, the picturesque setting providing a serene backdrop to our union. As the moments passed without incident, a sense of relief washed over me, the earlier turmoil momentarily forgotten. However, the tranquility was short-lived, shattered by the impending family speeches at the reception. My mother-in-law's words cut through the air like a blade, leaving me seething with anger and indignation. Despite my father-in-law's attempts to intervene, she persisted, clutching the microphone tightly as she unleashed her vitriol for all to hear. Just as I reached my breaking point, a middle-aged man rose from his seat with determined resolve, striding purposefully towards me. "You don't deserve to endure this," he declared, his gaze fixed squarely on my mother-in-law. Without hesitation, he extended a guiding hand, leading me away from the escalating confrontation. My mother-in-law's outrage was palpable as she recoiled at the interruption to her tirade. However, her fury paled in comparison to the shock that rippled through the room as the man's identity was revealed. "Who dares to interrupt my speech?" she exclaimed, her indignation faltering as she realized the stature of the man before her. Beside her, Stephen's complexion drained of color as the truth dawned upon him. In a whirlwind of confusion, we hastily retreated from the reception hall, leaving the chaos behind. Sweating profusely and visibly flustered, Stephen struggled to regain his composure as we sought refuge in the relative privacy of the dressing room. "Why is my father here?" I gasped, the revelation sending shockwaves through my already tumultuous world. "That's correct. Stephen's company's CEO is also my biological father. The dissolution of my parents' marriage stemmed from irreconcilable differences. Their constant conflicts, exacerbated by their shared workplace, led them to part ways in the belief that it was for my well-being. Despite the divorce, they maintained sporadic contact over the years. I had grown accustomed to seeing my father several times a month, his consistent child support ensuring my needs were met as I transitioned into adulthood. Even when my mother fell ill, he remained a steadfast presence, offering support in various forms, fostering a strong bond between us. Yet the revelation of his position as Stephen's boss caught me off guard. "I never knew my father was the CEO of Stephen's company," I murmured, grappling with the unexpected twists of fate. His sudden appearance at my wedding, contrary to his prior commitment to a business engagement, only added to the bewildering turn of events. "Why did you come if you had an important meeting?" I questioned, perplexed by his change in plans. "My meeting concluded earlier than anticipated. I couldn't miss the opportunity to give you this gift in person," he explained, his presence offering a glimmer of solace amidst the chaos. As I made my way to the entrance, I encountered an employee who revealed an unexpected twist. My father was the boss Stephen had mentioned. Learning of the wedding through routine preparations for a gift, my father seized the chance to attend upon discovering a vacant seat due to a last-minute cancellation. "Why didn't you tell me?" I questioned, feeling a mix of surprise and confusion at his secrecy. "After discussing with your mother, we thought it would be a delightful surprise. I never anticipated it would unfold like this," my father confessed, a tinge of sadness clouding his expression. Before I could delve deeper into the matter, the dressing room door swung open, revealing my mother-in-law's ominous presence. Her saccharine tone sent shivers down my spine as she attempted to coerce me back into the fold. The realization that she must have learned of my father's identity from her husband's revelation sent a chill through me. "Who do you think caused all of this?" "It was just a harmless joke," she declared, her attempt at levity falling flat in the face of my father's unexpected appearance. "How dare you make such a tasteless joke at my daughter's expense? It's unforgivable," my father shot back, his indignation mirroring my own. What? So it wasn't a jest after all? You genuinely called my daughter ugly? My father's confrontational tone left my mother-in-law stumbling for words, her feeble attempts at evasion falling flat. In a flurry of urgency, my husband burst into the room, his hurried footsteps echoing in the tense atmosphere. He knelt before my father, seeking to atone for his mother's transgressions. I apologize for my mother's indiscretion, he implored. You're apologizing to the wrong person. My father's icy gaze bore down on my husband, his words laced with disappointment and reproach. Angela, I'm sorry. My mother acted independently. My husband addressed me, his voice tinged with regret. If that's true, then why didn't you intervene when she insulted me? I demanded, my shock rendering me immobile. And your father attempted to intervene? I added, incredulous. But you seemed content to sit back and watch. I accused, my voice trembling with hurt and betrayal. You're mistaken. My demeanor was misconstrued. Regardless, the sole responsibility lies with my mother, my husband insisted, his defense ringing hollow in the wake of his mother's egregious behavior. My husband erupted, his accusatory finger aimed squarely at his mother. Stephen, are you turning against your own mother? We agreed to teach this insolent wife a lesson together, didn't we? Hey, enough with the unnecessary remarks. You said we needed to put this wife, who refuses to let Mama have her way with the dress, in her place. Keep quiet. My husband silenced his mother, his hand muffling her protests in a somewhat comical fashion. Now, care shed some light on this situation. I prodded, my voice edged with urgency. No, this was my mother's doing alone. It's for your own benefit, frankly. At this point, don't you think? My husband's response faltered as my father interjected, his probing gaze compelling him to speak. When Angela insisted on choosing her wedding dress, my mother suggested she would become disobedient if not disciplined properly. My husband finally confessed, his tone tinged with reluctance. What's wrong with choosing my own dress? Isn't it natural for a wife to heed her mother-in-law's wishes? If you can't even manage that, I feared you might become an obstinate wife who defies her husband in the future. My mother-in-law interjected, her words dripping with disdain. Marriage is a partnership of equals, isn't it? There's no hierarchy. If I can't control you, what's the use of marrying someone on the brink of aging? My husband's admission hung heavy in the air, shattering the illusion of love and commitment. The truth spilled forth. He hadn't chosen me out of affection for who I am, but as a convenient pawn in his game. All his declarations of caring for my mother, of wanting to forge a family together, were they all falsehoods? Of course, you had a tidy sum tucked away, didn't you? I had plans to use that to build a duplex. I envisioned you toiling away like a servant while my mother and I enjoyed our happiness. But now, it's all gone to waste. His words dripped with bitterness, revealing the depths of his deception. Once my husband unleashed his true feelings, there was no reining him in. His desire for control extended to draining our savings, a selfish act that left me reeling in disbelief. His expression shifted from assertive to shocked as he realized the gravity of his words. Wait, no, I didn't mean that. It's over. I can't have a wife who won't spend money or serve me, he stuttered, attempting to backtrack. Stop. I won't tolerate such disrespect, I declared, my resolve firm. I can't marry someone who views me as nothing more than a servant. His composure shattered, my husband paced nervously, grappling with the reality of our crumbling relationship. Then, as if struck by sudden clarity, he proposed a feeble solution. But our wedding is today. We can't call it off now, he reasoned, desperate to salvage the situation. I'll handle the guests and their gifts. Since your mother's actions led to this, you'll cover the expenses, I countered, refusing to shoulder the blame for his family's interference. You can't be serious. This breakup is your fault for overreacting to a single incident with my mom, he retorted, his words dripping with defensiveness. All the hurtful things you've said to me, they're all here, he added, pointing accusingly at me. Retrieving my smartphone from my purse, I pressed play, unleashing a barrage of hurtful words in my mother-in-law's own voice. Poor, ugly, harsh woman. Each insult echoed through the room, a damning testament to her cruelty. When did I record all this? I'm not naive, I declared, my resolve unyielding. I'll be seeking compensation for the emotional distress you've caused. I was merely trying to discipline my daughter-in-law. I've done nothing wrong, my mother-in-law protested weakly. If you won't pay willingly, I'll see you in court. Let's see if you'll repeat those words before a judge. This isn't a laughing matter. Realizing the precariousness of her position, my mother-in-law paled, her defiance crumbling. I'll also be reconsidering your position at the company, I added, turning to address my father-in-law. With this final blow, my husband's facade shattered, his resolve crumbling as he sank to his knees. I'm sorry, Angela. Please forgive me, he pleaded, his voice thick with remorse. That's right, Angela. You're already married. You can't just throw it away so easily. If we work together, we can overcome this obstacle and have a great future together, my husband and mother-in-law pleaded desperately. Shrugging off their attempts at reconciliation, I fixed them with a steely glare. Enough of your deceitful words. You're both despicable, I spat before storming out of the dressing room. Keeping true to my word, I proceeded to dissolve my engagement with Stephen and filed a lawsuit against my mother-in-law for the emotional torment she caused. The financial burden of the failed wedding fell squarely on my ex-husband's shoulders, serving as a harsh reminder of the consequences of his actions. Word of the debacle spread through his workplace, resulting in his ostracization by colleagues. Under my father's directive, he was relocated to a distant branch in Nebraska, effectively demoting him. My ex-mother-in-law faced scorn from her own relatives for sullying their family's reputation with a divorce. Meanwhile, my ex-father-in-law wasted no time in ejecting her from their home. As for me, I redirected my focus to my career, having no desire to entertain the notion of marriage again. Over time, my parents found solace and our family relationships flourished once more with occasional gatherings over dinner. Today, I lead a fulfilling and content life.
I am Christina, and I am 32 years old. Steve and I have been together for 6 years, and I love him very much. I wanted to marry him my whole life and asked him to marry me several times, but each time he politely said no. But he finally agreed to my 5th request not long ago. Right now, we're busy getting ready for our wedding by making plans and picking out clothes. But even with all of this work, every day is fun, and I hum songs without even realizing it. Then one day, while I was happy, a prenuptial agreement was put in front of me. Steve had said that this agreement was needed in order to get married. What was agreed upon was that what belonged to each of us before we got married would stay the same. We would not mess with what the other person gets in the future, and we would update this document if our family situation changed. Steve, are you really worried about this? I asked him as he signed the paper. Well, it's just for peace of mind, just in case, he said. It's important for both of us, I believe. But I was more excited about the days ahead with him than I was about why he was so set on this deal. But a small event was about to happen. Steve has 2 older brothers who are a bit strange. Steve told me not to believe what those 2 said when I met them before our wedding. They're a bit odd. Don't worry about it. In his words, the people who will be my in-laws gave a small, unclear smile. I almost forgot about them because I hadn't seen them in a while. Then one day, while Steve was at work, I got a call from a number I didn't know. Chrissy, you like fish, right? This call from my brother-in-law, whom I had only met once, caught me off guard. What is this? I knew that Chrissy was my nickname, but who was it? I knew it wasn't a stranger because they called our home phone. It was a voice on the other end of the line that made me think of what it was. Haha. You don't know who I am. I'm Steve's brother and your new older brother. What kind of brother-in-law? What is it? Steve has 2 brothers, but this voice belonged to someone else. It has been a while. What took place? Asked but was still not sure what to do. He told her, today I went fishing and caught a lot of salmon. It's okay for me to bring a few, but I can't bring them all. Steve will love them with lemon. It made my heart beat faster when he spoke. That's great news. I could make a dish that Steve loves. Steve has to work today, but I think he'll be very pleased if he comes home to a tasty meal. I quickly went to the kitchen after hanging up the phone. I have salt and lemon. Right then, let's make a tasty dish. I was feeling great as I was getting the ingredients ready when the doorbell rang. My brother-in-law must be there, she said. I knew the face when I looked at the computer. Someone from Steve's family showed up. It was his younger brother. He looked a little tense when I opened the door. "Excuse me, may I use the bathroom? Could you also pay for the taxi?" As he said this, he ran into the house quickly. "Huh, okay," I said as I gave the cab driver my money. He felt better when he got out of the bathroom and took a deep breath. "Thanks, you saved me. Oh, and could you lend me some money too?" He smiled and put out his hand. "Huh, what is the money for?" I looked at him a little confused, and he laughed. "The fish is not free. How about $50? He asked in a relaxed way. "What?" I was so shocked that I almost dropped my wallet when I let out a loud scream. I thought the fish was just a treat for everyone. Of course, I felt bad taking it for free, and I had planned to buy him a snack to say thanks. But $50, that was a surprise. From the look on my brother-in-law's face, it looked like this price was normal for him. He'd arrived from a long way away to give it to me. The fish was still fresh. I didn't want to say anything that would make things worse. It hurt me a little to do it, but I took $50 out of my pocket and gave it to him. "Thanks, the fish is in the fridge. Also, I'm leaving the fishing tools here. Steve has been asked to bring it home later. Thank you." After that, he quickly left. "Huh, are you already leaving?" "Kevin, wait." I was shocked to see the cooler and gear left at the door, but he was gone in an instant, waving a $50 bill. "It's odd that the stuff was left here. It won't fit here." I forgot to pay for the cab. I thought about the cab fare I had paid for him, and it looked like I was having a hard time. It feels weird to ask Steve to carry this. How do I bring up the cab fare? What was even more surprising was what was in the cooler. After I calmed down, I planned to make a dish. I said, "What?" When I opened it, "What is this?" There was only one small fish on top of a lot of ice. I couldn't move because I was so shocked. "What is this, then?" I had no words to describe how shocked I was. I was excited about getting a lot of fish because of how my brother-in-law talked. I was so excited that I cut a lemon. I could only sigh when I saw the lemon I had cut with joy. A few months later, I went to a nearby small cafe. "Don't tell my younger brother, but I need to talk to you about something." The urgent call came from my husband's older brother. His voice sounded urgent. "Listen, I need to talk about something important, but I can't tell my parents or brother." He said that over and over again. I was a little nervous, but the chosen cafe was warm and bright, and it was daytime, so I thought everything would be fine. "Christina, come over here," he called out loudly as soon as I opened the door. Other people were staring at me, which made me feel bad, so I quickly walked over to his table and looked down. "Look at that blush, Christina. You're so cute." My brother-in-law's smile made my cheeks get even redder. "Let's have a little more peace and quiet." He waved his hand and said, Okay, when I told him this in a whisper. Then he introduced me to the woman sitting next to him. I said, "This is my new girlfriend." A beautiful woman dressed in style stood up and looked at me. A low voice asked, "What's this about?" Just as I was about to meet her, the next thing I knew, I got hit in the cheek. I was shocked and couldn't figure out what had happened. Someone from the crowd just hit me. "Why?" The angry woman in front of me yelled, "Is this your new girlfriend? She's so annoying," and stormed out of the coffee shop. "James, hold on. What kind of joke is this?" It hurts a little on my cheek. My throat dried up from being so shocked. "Actually, I had a fight with my girlfriend," my brother-in-law said without any thought. "I thought about getting a new girlfriend instead of you and stopping our relationship." He laughed and said, "Thanks to that, it's all over now." Are you kidding me? This is something I never thought would happen. I began to get annoyed by how carefree he seemed. "Well, these things happen," he said with a wave of his hand. "It's not a big deal. I've never had anything like this happen before, though. How can I keep my cool?" I spoke up. Honestly, I was so angry, shocked, and embarrassed that I couldn't think straight. My brother-in-law then told me, "Don't be so mad. It's not important." It shocked everyone. But was it really that shocking? As I looked around, I saw that everyone was looking at me. As I felt the looks of shame on other customers' faces, my cheeks burned. Because I felt bad, I looked down. My brother-in-law saw this as a chance and stood up, smiled, and said, "See you later." I said hello to my brother for me, and I left the store. "Hold on. Have a few more things to say," I yelled, but he was already out of sight, so he couldn't hear me. A staff member with a worried look on their face stopped me from going after him as soon as I stood up. "Excuse me, may I have the check?" As they gave me the bill, they said that was really the only thing that came to mind. It's been getting worse between me and my in-laws lately, so I was thinking about staying away from them. In my heart, I felt both powerless and angry because I had so many problems at once. After telling my husband everything, we agreed not to respond to any messages from his brothers. If they needed something, they would have to talk to my husband about it. I then chose to ignore the several texts I got after that. The happiness didn't last long, though, because my in-laws' 60th birthday party was coming up, and I had to go. I've always felt welcome with them, and I loved them as much as I loved my husband's parents. My mother-in-law said, "Wow, it's so big. And that separate room over there is so pretty too." Seeing her have fun made me feel better. This house would be great for the party if I could pick it. The in-laws wanted a traditional house that I got from my grandparents not long ago. That house is a classic house that is 230 years old and was moved. When my grandparents lived there, it was always busy. I talked about it with nostalgia. The first time I met my wife, it was also in such a traditional place, my father-in-law said as he thought back. It turned out they met while looking at old homes and having tea together. They found out they were both the same age. In fact, this house was a restaurant before my grandparents moved into a nursing home. My mother-in-law made me feel better by telling me today was special and the place was perfect. She felt bad that she hadn't invited them sooner. Those words made my heart a little warmer. They looked at the house and yard for 2 hours before the party started. During this, the oldest brother came in, making a lot of noise and looking a little unhappy. "What is this? We're having lunch in such a quiet place, and Steve is the only one here to greet us." The oldest brother said, "That's surprising." Steve answered with a smile. "This is what Mom and Dad want. They wanted to spend time with their family in a cozy place. This lunch is a special one from a well-known shop in the area." I remembered how excited I had been for that lunch when Steve said that. The second brother spoke up with a worried look on his face and said, "Even if it's a special lunch, it's still lunch. In such a lovely house, shouldn't we have gotten fancier food? Steve, aren't you being too cheap? The rent for the house must have been pretty high. Today was for my in-laws, and I thought we should honor their requests. The first time, I wasn't reimbursed for the taxi price when I was only given a small salmon, nor for the costs at the shop where I got into a fight with his ex-girlfriend. But after that, my oldest and second oldest brothers kept nagging Steve and me and sometimes made jokes about it. Steve kept up his normal calm and gentle attitude through it all. I love that about him a lot. My oldest brother smiled and said, "Hey, I just thought of a good idea." We were having a great time talking. Life has some strange turns sometimes. Steve looked at me with a slightly tense face, as if he felt the same way. After that, the oldest brother whispered something to the second brother. The two of them laughed out loud, their eyes shining. "Are we family?" The oldest child smiled and said, "There's a way to make this special day even more special." At that moment, the oldest brother looked at my husband and asked, "Has this place already closed down?" He said, "Yes, it has. in a soft voice and with a shocked look. Then my excited brothers-in-law came up to us. "Wait a minute, are you implying that you're the one who brings in the money?" The biggest brother yelled, "Yes." And the second brother smiled. "You're so lucky to live in such a beautiful place and have such a big house." "Wait, do you not understand something?" My husband cocked his head in surprise. However, my brothers-in-law went on. "It was the second brother who begged, 'You can't keep this wonderful place all to yourself. Would you share it with us, sir?' asked the oldest with a smile. I got what they were trying to do and had a thought. "What do you need?" I laughed and asked. They looked at me with wide eyes, probably thinking about the things that belonged to our family. I couldn't just do what they said. I didn't receive this house, so it's not my husband's. My husband has always been there for me, especially when it came to my fortune. He told me many times, "If there's a problem, talk to me. Remember to follow the rules of our prenuptial agreement." My brother-in-law's behavior was even worse when I thought about how kind and honest he was. "Isn't this place in the most beautiful spot anywhere? You can get anything you need with just a short walk. Isn't this house a little too big?" The oldest child said, "Maybe we should let our younger brother's family live here," which was a lie. "We don't have to meet anymore if you don't agree." After taking a big breath, I said, "It's okay." They were shocked. "That's it. If so, can our younger brothers live here?" "Yes, of course," said with a smile. "Not just for the second oldest brother, but also for you. I hope everyone likes the house. These are the keys." When I gave them the keys, my brothers-in-law's faces lit up right away. "That's it. We're very thankful." "Yes, Christina. Thank you so much," she said. They walked around the house happily, while my husband asked, "Are you sure about this?" He did so with a slightly raised eyebrow. I grabbed his hand. "Don't be afraid. I've given it a lot of thought." After a few days, our intercom rang urgently while we were relaxed in the living room. When they opened the door, my in-laws looked scared. "Why is this taking place?" We didn't know that the house was going to be torn down. They held up a warning to tear down the building. "Oh, that was planned," I said in a calm voice. They were shocked and asked, "Why?" I told them, "There will be a new apartment building built there. In order to do that, the current house has to be torn down." They were dumbfounded as they looked at me. I also said, "The high-end restaurant has been offered to move because it is in such a great spot." While the 60th birthday party was going on, I left it alone, but today is a big day for it. They looked at each other worriedly. Seeing how surprised they were made me feel a little better. "Is the house really going to be torn down? Are you sure?" I smiled and said, "Yes, I am. So you might want to get back any important things soon. Everything inside will be thrown away." When they heard this, their eyes got even bigger. I added, "Given how busy the construction site is, work might start soon." As I looked out the window at the big machines, "It's safer to take your valuables now." After a short pause, they quickly began to talk about it, asking, "Is this real? Are we going to move quickly?" As I watched them run off, I looked at my husband. I said, "It looks like they really didn't know." My husband smiled and said, "I guess my parents and I thought it would be good for them to get a little shock based on what we've learned from the past. But we may have caused the workers trouble. The house keys were given to my in-laws?" "That's true." I told my husband and his parents the right way to go about telling them about my plans to move into a new house. Of course, I also told them that the house had been bought and gave them information about the date of the handover. They could have told the brothers the truth, but it looks like no one did in the end. "Don't stress out about the workers," he told me. "I've already talked about it with them." I thought this might happen, so I told the worker ahead of time. We said a few words. "I hope you regret it," and then went to sleep. I couldn't believe it had come to this the next day. When we got to my in-laws' house, my mother-in-laws, Mings, and my upset brothers-in-law were there to greet us. Even if the contractor didn't let you in, what were you thinking trying to sneak into the house at night? Well, it turns out that they tried to sneak into the house during the day, but were turned away. So they tried to get their valuable things at night. A neighbor thought this was odd and called the cops. Not only did you not get your things back, but you were also stopped by the police, my husband said in shock. Yet, even though the in-law boys were eager to explain, their parents only said, "You both should say sorry." My husband gently gave them advice, and they didn't seem like they wanted to say sorry. But the oldest brother replied, "What?" with a hint of anger. But all of this is because of Christina. The second brother added, "I thought you were nice, but I was wrong. I didn't understand why you gave me the keys so quickly. But what you did to the house shocked me." Could only smile when they suddenly complained, "Brothers, it looks like we have a misunderstanding. The truth is that I received both the land and the house. We talked about this before I got married to Steve. I've always said what's mine is mine, and we even made a big deal about it. So really, it's not your place to step in. A contract?" I asked. The in-laws looked shocked, though. I chose to make things clear. There have been many ideas about what to do with the land since my grandparents' time, but they always wanted to keep it the way it is. On the other hand, they told me I could sell it in the future, which I confirmed with a skilled builder. "It's not your business, then. But we're family, so why do you think it doesn't matter to us?" Before I answered, I thought about a lot of things. About 3 years ago, I really began to think about getting married. Since my mom died soon after giving birth, my dad raised me with a lot of care on his own. Together with my dad, we were like best friends. We went camping in the summer and on ski trips in the winter. Unfortunately, those happy times came to an abrupt end when my father fell and died. Being overloaded, I felt bad that I couldn't do anything to help him and sad that the room was empty where he used to be. At that time, my husband was there for me and supported me through my dad's funeral and the memorial events that followed. Because I couldn't leave the room I shared with my dad, my husband would make me soup and listen to me talk about my dad all night. "I want to marry you so badly. You've thought about me and been on my side all along." I told him during my 5th approach, "If there's something you don't like about me, I'll fix it." He then looked upset and brave as he told her, "I want to marry you, but my family is having problems. I don't want to give them to you." "Steve," I told him, "I really love you, and I don't care about any problems in your family." We then chose to get married. I have no regrets at all. I wanted to do what my grandparents wanted, and I'm happy that I did. His boys, on the other hand, were a different story. I can't believe how cocky your brothers are. I can no longer forgive them. I made it clear they will pay for everything they've done. Taxi fares, expensive food bills, payment for slapping me, the price of our tea at the cafe, home utilities, the cost of calling the police, and everything else. Steve said. His brothers turned pale. "Even for that, that's not possible." Then there was an even bigger surprise. "You're rejected," their father told them. "What?" "Dad, please don't." This caused their parents to kick them out of the house. Even cousins who lived a long way away knew about their bad behavior. The brothers' women and families left them because they had lost their place. They now seem to live in peace and quiet in a small room. Is this our new house? Is it really possible to live here without any problems? We moved into a fancy high-rise house next door to Steve's parents. Of course, we agreed to buy this floor in the building before we could give up the land. It's great that we can live close together. Some of my grandparents' old house, like the beams, were used to build our new house. A new picture of our family was taken. Let's put this picture up next to the old ones. The picture showed my family's happy faces. I told myself, from now on, I'll treasure